This map is going to let us know exactly what happens next. Jewel Beretta's picked up on Nork.
Hell
Interesting. Yeah. I'm definitely a fan. I've got to say, I'm on board with this. Where does he play with them? He's actually headed towards the B side with Plopsky just alongside him. Twist behind in heaven and some aggression up on long to start things off. Rez, though, gets dinked down to 14, and he'll think better of re-peaking anytime soon. He just falls back. And now Heroic, after taking that early action and the early damage, start to rummage their way towards the B side. But Plopsky's there with the USP, and Heroic about to pull the trigger on an all-out execute.
That's a lot of information gained, though, by Plopsky. He spotted a player and takes another one with him. The Jewel Berettas couldn't really be in a better position, if I'm being honest. There is somebody pushing in that direction, though, and the timing might just get the better of this CT side. Cadian, he's watched one man sneak through. He's going to go for the knife. It's the Shadow Daggers coming out of nowhere. The Nork now stuck in a pretty awkward spot. The thing is, though, Cadian's actually gone back around through Monster, so they still haven't cleared this angle. This could actually end up being a bit of a false positive, as he now has the chance. Not the best guns for tapping, that's for sure. And Storm, they haven't managed to stop him just yet. It's 2 kills for him, a couple for Nico, and even some knives coming out for Cadian.
The second that Cadian gets that knife as well, you see Nork just instantly spin to his left-hand side, and it's like from Metal Gear Solid, you know, and the exclamation mark above their head, and just a loud noise. He's like, wait a second, what? What just happened there then? So you can see that Heroic, they're feeling pretty damn good, and why wouldn't they be after a 16-3 demolition on the back foot? 2 scouts, interestingly. We've seen a lot of these on the likes of Dust 2, where it's pretty common. I would say 2 scouts on Overpass, not quite as common a feature. But definitely can still work. Will still sting if you walk into those crosshairs.
Yeah, I like the fact that neither of them are on B, at least. Because although I think there's options when it comes to peeking Monster with an AWP, I think the risk when it comes to a scout is just not worth it. Like, even if you hit the tag, the chance you're getting back around the corner. The pace, though, coming out from Heroic, they're just going to try and brute force into the B side. It's normally where you opt to try and avoid with the amount of SMGs and pistol damage that is possible, but Heroic have no fear whatsoever. The scout, if anything, should just be saved for the next round, and Heroic may keep this one squeaky clean.
Oof. Cadian taking a shot through the smoke. He drops down to 30 alongside Storm's 13. But yeah, you pretty much summed it up. Barrett does get no-scoped, but Tessis and the MAC-10 are too good to let that chance go slipping by. A little bit surprised, honestly, that they even kept one of these 2 players over there, because Rez had already pieced out a long time beforehand. And we'll finish off what Hampers started with the scouts. So instead of having 2 potential 1 taps, they now only have the 1 in the hands of Rez, who should be able to survive in that smoke, although Tessis, breathing down his neck, will just miss out on the opportunity. Heroic off to a 2-0 start, and Nip can't really justify investing much, if anything, into this round, because anything they do invest is a lack of weaponry or a lack of nades into the next round.
Yeah, Nork's going to invest a little bit because he'll be able to afford the AWP anyway. That's the main goal for him. Just make sure that the big green is available for the next round. Something we're unlikely to see. We're actually going to have 2 boosts. The problem is the second one was actually a little bit delayed. However, that, if anything, works into the favor of the Ninjas. So the $300 investment pays for itself. And then he gets absolutely owned by Cadian anyway.
Yeah, Cadian at least answering the call of Storm and avenging his young teammate. Hampers, Plopsky, and Twist still remain, and they do have the SG. This time it is in the hands of Twist, who picks it up, looking to use it against the oncoming T's. And he may see action sooner rather than later, because the T's now pivoting in towards the A side of the map. They've gone through Connector, through the playground and long, and are congregating with a target painted firmly on the A side. Twist, no kills to his name just yet. We'll be hoping to change that come the end of this. At one point, he always outright a pretty decent AWPer by himself in previous teams, but now he's had his head removed. And with his loss of life, the site will follow, and more than likely a 3rd round on the Danes. Plopsky and Hampers only with USPs by their side, will be nothing but cannon fodder.
A very safe round from Heroic after the initial damage. They realize, okay, now we're risking rifles rather than just the SMGs of the start. So not going to be taking any liberties, making sure they use all their utility to section off different angles of the map. And while Hampus not really going to want to save the scout, at least I hope he's not. Could do some damage with it, though. Unfortunately, again, it seems to be the case with the last couple of rounds that there was a lot of damage done, but no actual economic damage done. So they didn't manage to really pull anything off. So Heroic is still in a very good spot. If they desire, they can go for an AWP in this round. But something that's very Heroic-esque is in these sort of rounds when you know your team's or your opponent's team is just getting stabilized, you throw in something a little bit quicker. So I'll be interested to see if Heroic are going to play more of a default round or if there's going to be some pace to this push.
I was paced to both teams, but good counteractive utility into the eyes of Nok, who has to change his angle and misses a shot that really should be landing. Especially if nothing else to calm the nerves after getting battered on train, where he did have a good performance, but the rest of his teammates kind of let him down a little bit. To land op shots early on, give you a bit of breathing room, give you a chance to pivot off it into a potential round. Missing that could be so deadly. They have no kits and their utility is starting to run a little bit dry. Still plenty of time for Heroic to poke and probe onto this defense. 3 players stack on A, actually, 2 of which are on long. So they could be walking into the gauntlet, into a trap. Twist, Molly down, looking to try and change up his angles, and Nork now will connect alongside Twist. Much better. And there's no kill forthcoming for Heroic to bounce back into this round. They want to get aggressive, but they also have smokes they have to deal with.
I think Barup might have spotted Rez there. Oh, actually, he goes back for the same sort of peek, and while Rez is there to punish, the remaining 2 players now looking to head into the B side, but this is all in. They've got nothing. They don't know how many players are here. They don't know what map control's been lost. They could be all the way down the back of Monster, for all Heroic know at this point, and Storm is going to hand them the bomb. A perfect resurgence from the Ninjas, a flawless first round, a big boost to economy. But now we're going to see the response from Heroic. They built up a fair bit of cash over the last few rounds, Vince. So this isn't any sort of damning situation for them just yet.
No, not at all. And they'll get some information. They'll have some reads and tells.
Gone for Mac 10s. Okay, are they throwing this fast round in later? Yeah, I think they are. That's actually quite spicy because I was expecting them to do it in the last round. I said it's a very Heroic-esque thing. Instead, they're just going to go running straight through. Plus, Plopsky's done so much damage, but he doesn't get a single kill for it. Nico and Tessa's both low. The B site, oh, Twist, he turns around. And that's it. That's round over. This is what I was expecting last round, and maybe that's why Heroic went, ahaha, we're going to wait 1 and then do it later.
Yeah, maybe anticipating that, once Nork had an AWP in his hands, that he'd be playing a little bit more statically. The round isn't done just yet, though. Hampus is up close, and they did get a kill back from Nork. HE, Hampus, cartwheels into his demise, and now it is just Nork looking to save. So Heroic, yeah, he did stall out the rush a little bit later. Nork connects, able to rummage backwards and potentially save this AWP yet. Will get tested again from Storm. Passes that with flying colors. No T's really up close enough to deny him this AWP either, so this is going to be costly. Heroic do need to replenish those fallen guns. That puts a couple of the players into a bit of an awkward position, but yeah, it's a great execute. No real chance for Plopsky, who was caught out a Monster with tons of flashbangs in his eyes. And now Nip will be calling a tactical timeout just to get themselves on the same page.
Damn, 2018. Wouldn't even be that this iteration of the roster, of course, recently having in-game leaders changed and us edging ever closer to 2021, which is a terrifying thought. But yeah, I love those sort of pace changes from Heroic. It's something that they do quite regularly, and I think only work because this team has full faith in their in-game leader. That's something we've seen in many interviews, that whether or not Cadian will say something almost completely crazy, the team will follow it. And we have evidence of that because they tried to P90 rush end a game the other day. That round, though, they had the money for AWPs. They had the money for AKs, but they went for Mac 10s just to make sure they had that initial sprint speed. And while Nork, you mentioned that save AWP, he's going to go down. Luckily, there is a second one, and Rez has been able to find Nico, with Storm also tagged and Rez now taking some initiative. Now, as mentioned, he's been a bit quiet in this series so far. They're going to need him if they're going to win this one.
Oh, most certainly. He is right now slap bang at the bottom, performance-wise, of NIP, which is pretty scary because he's typically one of the players that they rest on. It's really him and Hampus alongside Nork. Meanwhile, Storm, you mentioned he's on 50 frags. He's on a 1.71 rating for the best of 3. Not just for Train, for both maps combined. Plopsky gets aggressive, but Tessis cuts him down before he can retreat back onto the site. And with his loss of life, Rest will feel like he has to come out and make his impact felt. Decent idea with the spray, but actually coming out worse in that trade. Dropped to 25. And now that Connector has been taken control over, purely off those perforated rounds through the wall, now Heroic can make the most of it, jump on top of the site and get a post plant for themselves. Now, whether NIP come in for this retake is yet to be seen, but I would imagine not, judging by Twist's current positioning, and their economy doesn't really afford them to take this risk either. You'd then be looking at a 5-1 deficit with basically nothing into the next round. So again, the Danes starting so deadly.
Yeah, the only real saving grace for NIP is that the loss bonus for them still won't be too bad with the 1 round sort of reset, but this is not a good position to be in, especially with Heroic starting to really gain momentum on the T side. Now, they might be able to wipe out a few weapons, but I would be surprised if Heroic pushed too much further than this, because there is absolutely no reason to. You've already survived the bomb. You've got 3 guns standing. And their economy, it's good, but it definitely could be better with how things are going so far. That is filth from Tessis, and he's someone else. Like we sort of mentioned how good Storm's been doing. He played well on Train, don't get me wrong, but I don't think there was a weak player. We're yet to see that sort of peak level from him just yet. And that's a pretty scary prospect considering how good he's been throughout this tournament.
Yeah, true. He's middle of the pack for these last 2 maps. And Storm, I mean, you did already highlight this. He's head and shoulders above everyone else. Now, we said Rez needs to have a big upward trajectory in terms of performance. Hell of a shot. And it could just be in the nick of time. Because him alongside the M4, the only things they have, Hampus, culling Tessis in rotation through towards the bathrooms. And now they can boost up again, and Rez is hungry for more. He sees the shadow, he pounces on it, and the Swedes with just 2 weapons by their side are making this work.
Round is looking utterly dominant, and it's mainly off just a few individual pieces of aggression, positions potentially not being checked properly. Marcadian, he's expecting this flank. That's 1 for free. I don't expect to get too many more like that. Hampus was someone who hadn't really had too much in this round thus far. They're going to look to try and group up and play this together. There are still only 2 weapons, and the remaining 2 actually don't have any armor at all. Plopsky, alongside Twist, are the one holding on to this B site. The worry for Twist is that obviously he does have multiple angles to try and hold on to, and if they do just bypass him through long, they could get a free kill. The thing is, though, his timing is perfect. Already rotating in to hold on to the cross. I don't really see a way out of this unless Barup's going to hit some pretty tasty shots, and his teammate of Cadian is not even going for this, it seems. A bit of a peculiar one. Like, he was holding the cross, waiting for someone to push him, but there was 10 seconds. I don't really know how he planned to get the bomb down. It's almost like he just sent Barup in to die.
Yeah, it's that indecision that we saw in Vertigo. There's one round that sticks out in my mind. They had 15 seconds left. They had Nico rotate all the way around the back, and they planted the bomb, but it was a second too late. And we both sat there scratching our heads like, what just happened? It's a very similar kind of scenario there. I mean, fair play. You're in effectively, what, like a 2v4, 2v3. It's unlikely you're going to get anything done, and Katie wants to hold on to the AWP. Fair enough, but then surely you play together. Plopsky. This time, though, the flashes connect, but he already had his crosshair in perfect position. All he had to do was control the spray, hold down the trigger, and the bullets do the talking for him. They went for that mix-up on pace, the monster push. But they have been cut down where they stand. And the Swedes are right back into this map after a very slow and sketchy start.
Yeah, and I like how they're not just committed to this one play. This is more like what we saw on Vertigo, where there are a multitude of aggressive plays coming out from the Ninjas, and they're making things very awkward for Heroic. The reason they can dedicate so many players at this site at the moment is because of Rez's position. He has all the information they could ever need right now that they are not going back. And then they also have Nork holding onto the connector. So the other three players can just sit safely knowing that there is absolutely no way that they can come in from behind. So with 40 seconds left, they know Heroic is still looking to head into Cadian, though. That's an opener, and Testis has somehow got another. They may have been waiting for this push. It seems like Heroic are just on point.
Two beautiful entries, but Twist suppresses Cadian, looking to skewer the rest of the T's, impair the push. Testis, last man standing, 8 HP to his name, and could try and force the plant down. Will be getting fragged afterwards, or perhaps not. Rez has missed his chance, but Nork through the boxes will pummel him. And I was about to also highlight that they both had AWPs. So it's that kind of very scary situation where if you miss with the AWP, you're basically vulnerable to instantly get fragged. But Nip do hold the line. They keep both AWPs in play. But with a post plant, Heroic have choices. Do they want to come straight back in with another buy? But this was the key moment. Sure, Heroic got themselves back into the round purely off raw entries, but that double spray from Plopsky was huge.
Yeah, that's the risk of that play. Like where we saw it from Astralis yesterday, and in a similar regard, is that realistically, like, you're going to go for that play and it's a 50-50 chance. Like, either you get that opener or that happens. And well, this time Nip got a little bit luckier. Storm had over half the amount of kills of Nip had. That's gross. Yeah, that's definitely disgusting. He was absolutely ridiculous, though. I think he ended 27-7, and if there'd been more rounds, there's no doubt he would have got more kills. Chances are we may not see too much of his AWP in this map, because Overpass isn't one that really relies on it as much. It's more of a gimmicky play if things are going wrong, and especially on the T side, I don't expect to see it from him at all. This round, though, are they going to attempt it again? Because they've still got an SMG. They've got a pistol as well. Utility's not great. It's a weaker buy, that's for sure. And I'm telling you now, that the last thing I would expect after I've just sprayed down 2 people through Monster is for them to try that again.
Yeah, this time, though, it's a little bit more subdued. It's a little bit stalled. So they didn't go off that first timing of the flash into just a wild spray, but they are going to be stalling it in. But now they're picking up the pace. Plopsky won't have his double. He gets forced off the sandbags into the arms of Cadian, but it's just a pistol by his side. And so that embrace is not felt. Twist now goes untouched by the flashbang, and he mows everybody down. Testis, last man alive again. He may get the element of surprise on the first player, but Twist is up to the task. A 4K across to the Swede, and a 4th round on top of it.
Really sick round from him, and especially the kill that came out from Plopsky. Sure, Cadian only had a pistol, but everything up until that point seemed like we were reading off the hymn sheet of what Heroic wanted to happen. They get the opener, they use their utility to force a player into Cadian, and the second he doesn't connect his shots, the round falls apart. Now, granted, a lot of it came down to just some impressive play from Twist, and I think a flashbang being slightly missed by the side of Heroic, but that was a really nice retake from them, and one that was important because those rounds can very, very easily get out of control. In fact, we saw it in the early stages. 4 in a row now for NIP. Looking like a much better position for them to be. Oh, no, it's not. Yeah, it's 4 in a row. No, 3 in a row, sorry. As they got one in the middle. So not quite as clean, but they are starting to drag things back a little bit. We're going to see an investment once again, and the loss bonus is building up. for the side of Heroic. So they can afford to invest a little bit extra into this round. Some pistols alongside a hero AK for Barup. Now we are starting to see things step up a bit for the Ninjas. Interestingly, they actually do still run this double up setup, and both of them have been playing on the A site. It does mean that realistically, the faster players are likely to be the more successful, but with how strong the B site defense has been over the last few rounds, Vince, I do wonder if they might try something cheeky towards Connector to try and close Nork down with his current position.
It's certainly very possible. I mean, I feel like Cadian is the kind of IGL that gets reads and tells and then tries to adapt and be versatile as a result of that. Burke talked about it in his interview with Frankie, that he wants to be unpredictable. So certainly a case to be made that may come into fruition shortly. Burrup just kind of talking over that because his chances were so slim. It turned out you're clairvoyant, Tom. They did get 4 in a row just a little bit later on, and now Heroic have another chance, and really this should be a bye. So can Nip continue this win streak? It would put them in the lead for the first time in our all-important decider. As I said before, the previous 2 maps no longer matter. This effectively comes down to a best of 1. Who has the courage to press forward and continue their pace? They will face off against Astralis next. Rez has already been smacked by a grenade, and he needs to tread lightly because Cadian, he's up close. There's some of that aggression we were looking for, and through Connector as well. 2 big entries on Heroic.
Finally punished a couple of players from NIP, and that's been the thing, that they have had so much information in this map so far based off it either being faster B plays, which have allowed them to push out in through mid, or just successful aggression coming out from Rez, which has made things awkward. Nork, though, with a nice shot at close range. Knows that there's a man on the other side. He's got to be careful, though, because Cadian is being a real nuisance. He caught out the first AWPer. He's looking to try and do the same with the second, but he's keeping an eye on it as he walks backwards towards A. Now, this could easily change from him being an aggressor towards Nork to him being an aggressor on the A site. Aggression from Hampus, though, and this could be everything. It was a 1v4 when he started. He's got it down to 2.
He's already got an ace to his name today, Tom. I feel like this would mean a lot more. It would be a 1v4. It would be a crippling round to lose in multiple facets. As he moves in, does take a dink and is finished off from Cadian. Well played by Hampus, but Heroic, their early entries did facilitate the round at the end. And a very unfortunate bit of timing for Nork as well. You saw him in Connector. The second he switched to an aid, he got peaked. Those little moments that can turn a win into a loss or vice versa. And now Heroic comes straight back in with a Galil on Nico, which is not ideal, of course, but against AKs. And now Nip, they've got themselves 1 up, no longer the double up setup. They could afford it. They decided against going for it again.
This does look like we're seeing an adaptation now, though, from the side of Heroic. That is a nasty spams onto Twist. I would not be still shooting through that if I were you. It's so uncomfortable. He's got 21 HP. But yeah, the last few rounds, Heroic have started to send Cadian as a bit of a lurk player. This round it's Tesses, but they've noticed that they've been being pincered in. They've noticed that NIP have got a lot of information, so they've started to deny a lot of it. Nice re-aggression, though, from Hampus. Going to catch out Nico. But it's Tessus on the map I'm keeping an eye on. Sure, the B play's coming in, but he's going to start trying to sell a bit of a fake and possibly have a very good flank. Deep smoke thrown in, though, and the T starting to push into the site. Barup will get another opener, and this gives more and more space to Tessus as the seconds go by.
They have left Rez on the site basically alone, and they've bit down on this hard. Rez now goes out looking for some information. May wide swing into Tessus, 30 seconds. He's about to find in the worst possible way that all the T's are looking to envelop the site. Nork caught in transition through on the dumpster, and Cadian punishes him. Post plant coming up. The IGL for the Danish team on 9 frags already and is looking to turn the screws. Twist is miles away. He's still on the B side. He needs to get up there right now. On 15 HP, no less. Plopsky, realizing that time is of the essence, starts to move in alone, but that's to his detriment. And it just seems to me that Nip weren't on the same page at all. They were coming through slowly, disjointed, and our Twist, realizing that his days are numbered on 15 HP, tries to save the AWP. He scurries away. Heroic will regain a 2-round lead. Whether Twist survives is yet to be seen. But this round is over, and Twist's life could very well follow suit. He may just about hold on. The great escape. He does live.
He's very lucky that Cadian actually died to the bomb there. Otherwise, he probably would have been pincered, but Cadian a little bit too close. And unfortunately, that means that, in fact, Heroic only come out of that round with one weapon as well. The fact is, though, with the victory, they come in with slightly more finances. The double AWP is going to be returned for NIP. Now, it's something that has been relatively successful so far. Interestingly, neither of them are going to be on Nork. And once again, this fast play out. But do they expect 2 players to be within the barrels? It's Hampus to do a lot of damage. Plopsky's found a gun. Can he do anything more? Surely he should be dead, but he's surviving. He's living within the corner. And he's actually maybe going to get another kill off the back of it. He finds another through the smoke. And in fact, even kills off the second as well. Smile across his face, of course. I think he knows that that's a little bit ridiculous to see. And while those fast plays from Heroic have started to be a real failure, I like the positioning as well. Putting 2 players on the barrels is a surprise. And while he did a great job of surviving.
That will be a gut punch for Heroic. Not only the fact that they would have felt that maybe even a 10-5 half was on the cards, but their economy has been shattered. They're down to Deagles. They're down to a P250. Hampus taking the initiative, gets aggressive, moving through the playground. Oh, there are so many T's around the corner, and he'll have free reign if he just checks to his left-hand side. Does he snatch at this opportunity? Does he line them up? He's going to wait for that lineup to come into play. Only getting one, but doing so much damage to the others. I actually think he'll be disappointed with only 2 frags out of that, you know, Tom. Sure, he probably wins the round off the back of that, but he'll be thinking, geez, man, I could have had all of them. Like, they lined up perfectly for him. Unfortunate in the end, but it seems like Nip will be able to capitalize on that, barring some Herculean effort from the Danes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you probably see yourself, you know, your names or your name up in lights, and instead you get 2. But the thing is, what he doesn't also realize is all the players with Kevlar are either dead or very close to being. So if anything, he's made this more awkward for the remaining players of Heroic. A chance to equalize the scoreline, which after an initial start of 5-1 in favor of Heroic, that really wouldn't be too bad if they can bring this all the way back. Some huge players coming out of this man right here, who's had a slightly quieter tournament than maybe we would have liked, and he's looking to try and close this round at least. Cadian spamming with the Deeg, and in fact, he'll get finished off by Twist. 7-7. We're going to get as close as a half can be to close this one out. Although I will say, for the sake of this match, I kind of want NIP to get this final round. Because going in at a deficit, going into your T side, it's not exactly the best.
Not the best sign, but to put a caveat on that, to play a bit of devil's advocate, the fact that they were 5-1 down at one stage early on, I feel like even if they do trail 8-7, they'll still be feeling pretty decent about things overall. But Nork, he could be in some trouble, and I think he realized that he just pulls the plug. Initially, he would have been swarmed in. Hampus, though, taking up the short control. They have a smoke on short pipe. Once that clears, it's going to start to put more pressure on these 2 Swedes that are watching short B. But not before Hampus puts a bullet in the head of Nico. That's a huge moment, alleviating a lot of that connector presence and the pressure of short pipe. Now they can focus. Rez looking into connector while Hampus watches in. They flash him in, lands in the eyes of Cadian, gives his position away, blind fire, maybe a bit of panic fire on top of it. The Hampus using that smoke, he actually darts away. He keeps that control over connector, and Rez knocks the bomb down. Heroic in trouble, and I don't see them retrieving this round. It would have to be some huge entries, and Cadian gets the first, but they still have no control over the bomb. Testis, beautiful peek, taking down Twist in the process, but Cadian caught out in no man's land, and with 35 seconds, they're in a 2v3, and they still need to retrieve the bomb. And Hampus is here, waiting, eagerly anticipating a peek, but Testis still takes him out.
This round becoming far too close for comfort. Nork, the man to receive the remaining two heroic members as the push begins. He lands the first shot, and now it is left on to Testis. A 4K needed, a clutch to close the half, but he won't be able to. A decent comeback from the Ninjas, and now they need to continue on as the T side comes up after the break.
I can see the light, but I can also see the bones again. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away. Sky trying to make me see your stars, but the dark gets lonely. Now I see violet, I can feel silence, and the dark's all that I see. When your stars have burnt out and your heart makes no sound, I'll find violet in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. You're the night sky, hiding behind dark gray clouds. I can't figure you out now. I see your blue. There is so much cold in you, and the silence is so loud when you go. I just stay dancing with my shadow all day. Watch the tide. I can't find the point where our two pass the line, but you're the night sky. I'm trying to see your stars, but I've always feared the dark. Now I see violet, I can feel your silence. You always feel so far when your stars.
Elimination, just the stone's throw away, and both teams staring down the abyss. Ninjas with a slight lead, but in terms of momentum, I'd say it's pretty favorable on their side of the coin. Heroic had a 5-1 lead, they let it slip, and now if the Swedes can get aggressive and successful behind it, things could start to slip away for Heroic. It will be aggressive. It will be up in the face of the CTs, but a connector sweep will get them one. Testis running out of ammunition, but Cadian steps up to the plate and helps his teammate out. Rez goes down, and Storm, who's played so passively, so patiently in the graffiti, gets one still somehow alive, and then Twist is going to go down to his hand. Spinning wildly, somehow keeps him alive. And now Nork needs to be ice cold in his resolve, staring down a 1v4. barely flinching, but he will be dispatched by Nico's hand. And Tom, I felt like Nip had the perfect start to that round, but then Storm struck.
Yeah, this is... Well, it's been one of the common factors within this map so far. The thing is, what they were planning on doing was actually very smart. They see all of those players in the connector. They go, okay, let's rotate back up to A. Let's pretty much switch up where this round is going. And, well, I think a word that you love to use quite regularly, there was a little rat sat in the back lines, just sort of waiting to kill them off. And, yeah, it's infuriating. He was just sat there, completely void of all other plays going on, and wins a round for his team. Did I say it with enough anger? I know that's something that you have to.
Yeah, normally it's not safe for a stream of this caliber. But yeah, Nip, they will be feeling a bit hard done by. Storm played it so well. Loved the little spin around as well. It seems like panic, but actually it just makes the hitboxes that much more difficult for the Glock to connect with a headshot. So there was method behind the madness. And Arcadian, MP9, you favor him to get 2, but maybe not a 3rd. Rez sprayed in to submission, maybe tapping out momentarily to the hands of Testis, but it's only at the cost of 1 life, and they can pick up the AK. They can't quite get their hands on the FAMAS, but it doesn't really matter. Heroic will be leading by a round, but here comes Nip over with some AKs.
Yeah, it was actually a hero AK dropped by Plopsky in the last round, so they took a big hit in an attempt to do some damage, and well, it didn't work. They took down 1 player, which it really wasn't worth the investment that they had. Now they need to capitalize off this round instead. Nade not doing anywhere near as much damage as I would have thought, and while the AK has come back to bite them. Sure, it's only a trade, but you have to realize that Cadian actually only had an MP5 in this round, so if anything, that's a worthwhile trade for the Danes.
That's certainly true. The aspect of it, though, that Nip will be happy about is it does thin out the defense that little bit more. Downside, though, as they may be about to find out, is that they've retreated over a 3rd player onto the A site. That will be Burup's FAMAS that joins the assault rifles in bathroom. Nico and Tess is still residing there. Burup will take the first point of call. He can then fall back and rely on that crossfire to come in from his teammates. Flashbang over. This is all a delaying tactic. Burup just needs to stay alive. But Ninjas, they read the situation perfectly, and Twist executes off it. The guillotine chopping down the 2 bathroom players. And in doing so, they now have the advantage in the post-plant. Thorn, who's been a real monument on Heroic, shows again just how good his aim is. As Nort comes down to greet him. He's now the last line of defense, but he will fall to the hands of Storm, and it's a successful retake to boot. Heroic 10-8 lead.
Counter-terrorists win.
Yeah, that's unfortunate as well, because that was somewhat a bonus round for the side of Heroic. They get some extra weaponry going forward into this one, and the bomb plant will help NIP at least put the pressure back on. But the scary thing is, as said, throughout this series so far, Tessus has yet to have one of his standout performances. I think we might be beginning to witness one, and I worry for the Ninjas, because if you have Storm performing, Tessus and Cadian now with his AWP, good luck!
Yet there isn't a weakness. So often, over the duration of this very tournament, you see a team start to make intel reads. They realize that a site is vulnerable, and they will just continually hit it over and over and over again. And then they'll set up that later down the line for a hit on the other side, realizing that they may stack too many players over on B, for example. Here, we saw that happen a lot when the roles were reversed and Heroic were on the T side to start off with. There aren't any vulnerabilities. There's no gaps in the armor. And that means that the Ninjas will have to up their game significantly. Otherwise, this will get out of control. Cadian with the AWP up close in bathroom, suppressing Rez, eviscerating him, and with it the push. There is a smoke down on long, but it actually doesn't affect either of the CTs, and they just close the gap. Cadian is burning alive. but stands his ground alongside Heroic, and they thwart this Tech 9 buy. Tactical timeout has been dropped, and NiP are running out of rounds. They're running out of time. They need to start posting some kind of comeback in effect.
This is giving me flashbacks to some of the rounds that NIP actually managed to win in the first half, where you see that they're able to get away with a lot of aggression on the defense. So Heroic have got a lot of different setups. Their CT side is very rarely the same as what we saw on Train, where they were constantly trying to switch things up, take different aggressions, look for different peaks. And they did it here again. They managed to take full water control, were watching for anybody around connector, and because of that, they were able to stack up 3 players on the A side. Now, they knew likely that this was going to be a weaker buy, so they were still fairly passive, but it gave them extra information that ultimately they could take a pick and fall back from if they needed to, and it just made it so that, again, NiP pretty much pincered the second that they went for just one play. Like, they didn't have any lurkers, which obviously is quite common when you do only have pistols.
4 rounds on the bounce. The Danes have been successful and victorious. And all 4 of them have been pretty straightforward. NIP, though, do have their hands on an AWP. Flashbang onto long, but Cadian doesn't miss. And he can quickly back off. Also, connector control being established. 2 players originally in there. But Storm drops out into the short side instead. Oh, Storm flicks across and takes Twist's head off. I thought that was the moment back into this round, but instead, the door gets slammed shut in NiP's face again. And they have to try and make some plays on long, but it's in a 2v5.
This round is over. Like, you can just see the amount of map control that Heroic currently have. It's filthy. They've got connector. Just look at where Stown is. He's gone all the way through Monster, back around, and he's now going to be holding for them coming back into the playground. There's nowhere that's safe currently. They have more map control than the T's, and they start off with the majority of it. Now, Tessa's going down could be a problem, but there's the bomb dropped. And Rez is currently having to retake the playground. That's not something you say very often in Counter-Strike. He's got 15 seconds, which for anybody who doesn't realize, that means he's got no time. And even still, Cadian's going to go looking for the final frag. They are pummeling NIP in this second half, and the Ninjas desperately need a change.
It's that boa constrictor mentality that we talked about before. Every time NiP take a breath, they exhale, it just tightens that little bit more. Never feel like you have any space. Never feel like you have any reprieve. Heroic switching up the pace as they did on Train. And NiP have just not been able to handle it at all. This is another half buy. Heroic have been very good at thwarting these kind of rounds in the past. Smoke down into connector. And NIP now making moves in there. So at least they have control over connector, which typically is the focal point of Overpass. The boost is a little bit too late, but Storm getting information, now snaps back into action. There's one getting traded out through the short pipe, but they still hold on. They still have their crosshairs put firmly onto the heads, and they are not letting go. There doesn't seem to be anywhere where NiP can move in to get any ground for themselves.
I almost want to see them just try some of the faster plays we saw from Heroic. Like, just attempt to pace change, because at the moment, Heroic are gaining far too much map control far too easily because of these slower default rounds. And, well, let's be honest, even in the pick play, Heroic are winning every single fight. It leaves Rez again in a position where, sure, a bomb plant would be nice, but ultimately you're still just trying to keep the economy low of Heroic, although with Cadian about to hit 10 grand plus, that hasn't been going particularly well so far. They're holding on for this cross as well. Rez is... Oh, they should be dead. Nico maybe just playing with his food a little bit. 13-8. We've seen nothing so far from the Ninjas. And yeah, I'm glad they're taking a second tactical pause. Give yourselves a moment. Try and rework things and potentially just group up, because the fact is, these defaults haven't been working. These plays that work out slowly haven't been going too well because too much space is being given. They need to just start basically disallowing this Heroic side from getting so much map control.
I would like to see some kind of a fast play, but I would worry at this point, Tom, after calling a timeout. Is that a bit telegraphed? You know, you've been playing so slowly that you call a timeout, then you rush. I feel like Heroic are going to know exactly what's coming up. So maybe this is where the reverse psychology comes in.
They've invested into an AWP, so if they did something like that now, I'd be quite surprised because, well, we saw what Heroic were doing on the other side, where they would basically just invest into SMGs. In fact, it's going to be the polar opposite. If anything, Heroic have now become more aggressive. They've got 3 players looking to try and battle here. Sure, it's an early trade, and actually Nico didn't get as much as I thought he would have done. It's Plopsky instead with a huge play, but we still end up in a 2v2. Now, Storm is cracked. He should be dead, and he will be, but Barup is going to get a very easy trade. They didn't expect the final player to be on the B site. However, this leaves for a 1v1. Plopsky, he's got 3 kills already. Barup is trying to cancel the 4K.
Yeah, Barup actually has significantly less frags than Plopsky as well. Plopsky is certainly one of the heavier hitters right now on the Swedes. But a lot of those kills have not been necessary on Barup. And we've already seen on Train in particular, he really had some huge moments. So we know he has it within him. As he moves into position, he anticipated that it would be a B hit as a HE, but that's it. And now they come head to head. The timing for Plopsky could not have been sweeter. And Nip with only their first T round. They led 8-7, remember, at halftime. So they have finally got success, but it's mainly off the back of just hyper-aggression on the CTs. That's not something they can rely on round in, round out. They still need to prove to us that they can get this done.
Well, that's the thing. I think we see this from both Heroic and Astralis, where they'll go for something really outrageous. Lose the round sometimes, and then just fall back into their defaults, and that's so difficult to break down. The fact is, a lot of their default rounds at the moment involve still taking a hell of a lot of map control. And look at the flashbang that comes through. It's so perfect. Plopsky's blind for, well, a good few seconds. And by the time he's able to see again, he's already out of the round. He's watching a teammate play and wondering what happened.
Exquisite counter-strike, really, from Heroic. They have this systematic control over so many different angles. They're spinning those plates, but keeping them all in motion. And now Rez, who's been the last man standing a lot of the time, now has a chance to have impact before his teammates crumble around him. They've already lost Plopsky, but Twist additionally is low. Tessis, different angle. Haven't really seen them playing this just yet. He can see the shadow. Oh, that's the bomb down as well. Not only is it the AWP, but the bomb, and that's the information that goes with it. They can keep 3 players over on the A side. Good utility toss behind it. They can stall and deny this for so much time. Nip finally get the hands on the bomb, and the fact that Twisters came through and got an entry on towards the B side does give them a little bit of wiggle room, but he's now been dispatched. Storm holding his ground, just needs to stay alive. He's picked up another kill. He's moved on to even more frags to his name, continues to have a stellar performance. And even though Rez comes through the shadows of the smoke, Tessis will strike. Heroic just 2 away from eliminating the ninjas.
Yeah, they currently have 3 players now above 20 kills off the back of this round. And as said, it's that trio. That trio is unstoppable. Like, we talk about the likes of Nico and Barup sort of being the more supportive players within this team. It's that trio that you just can't really do anything about. And on the other side, a few members have now started to go a little bit quiet, and that's a worry. At the same time, Storm, I believed, actually had a relatively quiet first half. I think he was on about maybe 9 kills. I don't think it was anything like blowing us away. Now sat at the very top of the server, 22 for the young Dane. And this is the terrifying thing about him and Testes, is that I just don't see a way back now. There needs to be another big play, and that's the thing. That's the only round they've got. It was Plopsky getting a quad kill to win them around. That's it. So far, other than that, they've had nothing.
A quad kill based off a very aggressive Heroic hit that just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So it's not as if they had some like really slick execute and Plopsky was just finishing off the frags. No. It was Heroic overstepping the mark, overstaying their welcome. But also, kind of setting up to go back into their default, and Nip just walking into the trap. Multiple players have been spotted jumping out of connector. To put it in context as well, by the way, as Tetris just sprays through them, there's 3 beautiful spray control. A transfer on point, but Storm has 72 frags in this best of 3. And consider that one of the maps was 16-3 and the other was 16-8. By anyone's standards, that is world class. And now Nip have Plopsky and Twist to try and salvage what has been a bit of a disaster of a round, with Tessis pulling the strings. He has at least been silenced, so they don't have to deal with him anymore, but they do have to deal with another 4 heroic players. Twist maybe missing his chance. It's a good flashbang, lands in the eyes of the aggressing bathroom player, but there's an incendiary to deal with them, and Cadian round the corner, shooting Plopsky. That wasn't a no-scope, he was looking down the scope there. That's outrageous.
They've managed just 1 round, Vince, in this second half. They're going to need 6 in a row. Now, we've spoken about the magic of the ninjas maybe still living on, even if the players have moved away. I'll be honest, Dignitas magic doesn't have the same ring to it anyway. Question is, do they have anything left? Testis is trying to make sure they don't, but again, it's the same aggression that they get punished for. They've lost 2 of their star fraggers within this map so far. Now, luckily for Heroic, they've had 3. But this also gives some extra weaponry over. This buy from the ninjas wasn't exactly too pretty. They'll have picked up some extra utility as well. And if they require it, an AWP. Nico, though, got very far. The thing is, because of this, they've got B.
Yeah, it's almost like a false positive, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I've got... Well, they're on B, mate, to be honest, so... Cool. I guess they're just saving at this stage. And they may not be afforded that luxury. Plopsky's coming up. And he really has been the shining light on Nip, on Overpass. He's on 20 kills. It feels like whenever they've been successful, it's been him pulling the strings. So they'll be hoping that continues for quite a while to come yet. It looks like they will be getting 10 rounds. Only their second on their T-half. But maybe there are some inroads that they can really put down range. Again, though, Tom, I don't want to take any of Nip's thunder away from them. It was off the back of an aggressive middle play, again, that just backfired. It's not like they're out maneuvering or their set plays are super crisp. As I'm speaking, Heroic will save their 2 weapons, but these aren't really the plays that you can rely on for the next 5 rounds to take you into overtime.
Yeah, I feel like these are the sort of rounds that Heroic almost like use to try and reset their palette. It's like just having a little bit of wasabi or something just to go, no, you didn't see that coming, did you? Right, now we're going to go back to just wrecking you again. Like they've done that once already. It didn't work. They've done it again. It also didn't work. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they now go and win this round in the same sort of form. And they've invested into the double AWP. We saw the double AWP on Train. It was terrifying. Now on Overpass, as said before, Vince, it's almost used as a bit of a gimmick. Well, Heroic need 1 round. A gimmick is absolutely fine.
Yeah, and I mean, Nip were using it consistently, and it got them tons of kills. They used it 3 or 4 times from memory. So we know in the right hands it can work. We had Storm going aggro into connector, got flashed out and forced away. They still get the entry, though, from the other AWPer of Cadian, who was up on the flower beds when he struck on Nork. Hampers has taken some very forward positioning, as have his teammates in Monster. Flashes and smokes being tossed out. Heroic aren't fully biting down on this, not fully respecting that it will be a B hit, but now that they've lost Nico, that may force them to respect this prowess, because the predators of Nip are coming in, and they can sense weakness. They can sense blood in the water. They're ready to strike. Burrup will go down on barrels. 2 players pushed at the back of Graffiti, one of which is Tessis. He's landed his 25th kill. Nip could be their last play of this best of 3, their last play of this tournament, but they are doing the damage. They're keeping themselves in this.
What?
They're taking tons themselves. Those Storm flicks across and lands a shot onto Plopsky, who now goes in for the bomb plant successfully. Incendiary toss towards the side. If that extends a little bit further, Plopsky may very well burn, but I think he'll be okay. And because that incendiary doesn't claim a life, Heroic have to turn tail, they have to save.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I think even if you know how much damage you've done, is it worth sacrificing your economy for this round? Well, if you win it, sure. But that's not something they can confirm or deny. So they're just going to have to sacrifice this one. Now, in terms of other rounds, we've spoken about how they've almost been handed to NIP on a plate. This one was taken with both hands. A better sign for them, even if it was close. And maybe that'll be a little bit of extra wind in their sails. They finally managed to get through the B side. The only thing I will say is normally we see Stown playing here deep within the site, and that's been someone they've actually really struggled to deal with. This time, though, because of his AWP, it's a little bit different. But there is still a purchase here for Heroic. It's definitely not perfect, but it is still pretty damn good. The AWP going to be handed back over to Cadian, and again, we're seeing more of these rounds where ninjas are trying to deny them taking any control. That nade, though, is filth. Twist has caught that in his hands. Now, Hampus is going to be the one to try and make a play.
Oh, that flash. Hampus' retinas were just burnt out of his skull. Right in his face. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Tom. You absolutely nailed it there. That this is the first time that NIP have really taken control of a round. And they've made it theirs. And they conceded the first kill in the round, remember, as well, from Cadian. So maybe the tide is turning. But they are going to have to come from behind again here if they keep themselves alive from elimination. And Cadian pivots in for a second. All the utility is centralized on Rez. Molotov to the back of the site. Tessis now can open up and he can start to spray down Rez in a 1v5 for the ages. But Cadian with the AWP is too good. And that will be Heroic, taking down NIP and moving to face off against Astralis.
Yeah, it's a battle I'm sure we can't wait to see, but I think we need to give credit to the Ninjas. They came into this tournament bringing Nork back into the roster, and it was one that we weren't sure what to expect from them. They've come in, they've eliminated some pretty damn impressive teams along the way, and they've still finished top 4. That's a hell of a lot of RMR points, some EPL points as well. So, you know what? Let's give them a little bit of credit where it's due, but again, that triple threat, those three players, Tessis, Storm, Cadian, when they're